Hey, Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to the Storytime series. If you have any stories that you want to tell with your experiences that have to do with colorism, texturism, featureism, or the resentment that comes from any of those things, if you have stories about your pretty girl problems as an exotical, please email them to exoticalsunited@gmail.com because we can't all be lying. One of the main things that people have told us is that we're all delusional, that we don't experience any struggles, and I just feel like the ism conversation has been so one-sided for decades now, and so I'm glad that people are finally listening to us. But let's go ahead and get into this story. She says, "Hi Exoticals United. Thanks for your videos and talking points. They really give a good perspective to a non-American MGM person and helped with my own perception of myself. I am a colored woman from South Africa, and these are two stories about my experience with unambiguous Black people, or as we say here, Black people. It's also good to note that in these stories, I'm the only colored or mixed person. The rest are unambiguous." The first story. For reference, I have been compared to people like Thandie Newton, Zoe Saldana, Zoe Kravitz, and more recently Tyla and Halle Bailey when it comes to my features. And my skin color is closer to Thandie Newton's. And the girl I'm talking about looks more like the main character from Abbott Elementary, Quinta Brunson. We were classmates, and from our interactions, we seemed to be friendly. Not besties, but not enemies. She was from Zimbabwe, and to me, seemed proud of that. I did, however, notice that she would always bring up skin color out of nowhere, and only when it came to me. She would bring up the fact that she had mixed cousins and they had a similar color to mine. I never felt it to be jealousy, more like envy really, which, side note, was common with unambiguous Black women. Remember when Kalani gave birth, one girl commented on how her baby isn't as pretty as she was because she was darker. A sad comment, as the girl that was saying this was quite dark. Anyway, we would hang out sometimes and she seemed okay. She wasn't very likable to anyone in our year, but my friends and I tolerated her. Now for the attack. One day, as we came from lunch, the elevator skipped our floor even though the button had been pushed. We all laughed at that. Nothing ever worked in that building. And she said the button was never pushed. Mind you, I pushed it. I looked at her and asked very clearly, jokingly, "Are you high?" The rest of the girls, about 5 of us, laughed as this was our style of humor. She then proceeded to choke me aggressively. I even bumped my head a bit. The elevator went quiet, and I just started laughing to contain my anger. Colored women are usually seen as spicy and violent, kind of like the Latina trope in the US, and I wasn't going to let her get me to prove that right. I didn't talk to her for the rest of the day. She tried to apologize using a piece of paper during our lecture. I told her it's okay, but never really spoke to her after that. A bit later, we had a self-portrait assignment, and everyone was gathering around her PC to look at hers. She was a good illustrator, so I thought everyone was shocked by how good it looked. But they all seemed to be looking at me. In particular, my friends who had been there that day. When I looked at her screen, the portrait looked a bit like me. Not exactly, but skin tone, face shape, and nose size. Again, with the references I gave, we didn't look alike at all. My lecturer was so shocked, she even brought it up, saying it looked more like me than her. So the self-portrait that her unambiguous friend made looked more like her mixed phenotype than herself. She wanted to see the reference she used. Obviously, it didn't look like the picture of herself that she used. After that, I never spoke to her again. I was afraid for my safety and kind of felt bad for her. I also noticed while reflecting on everything that she had a light-skinned boyfriend and never liked when I spoke to or about him. He was a year above us. Have you ever noticed that a lot of the women that are the most jealous of exoticals, they love non-Black men and creating exotical babies, or they love exotical men? She says, second story. This one is shorter, but it's about an unambiguous Black man. We were friends, and he always expressed how beautiful he thought me and another colored girl, the only 2 colored people in our class, were. The only unambiguous Black woman he appreciated for her beauty was our Congolese friend. She was a literal model. He also expressed how he wasn't fond of non-Black people, meaning white, Indian, and even colored people, and even said that we weren't African, not even colored people with indigenous Khoisan ancestry due to our white and other mixes. However, he would always talk about how beautiful we were. He said that he would only want children from a white, Indian, or colored woman, preferably white to make, in his words, light skins like you, have my own little Drake or J. Cole. Again, I found it so sad that he didn't like the other races. He wasn't even fond of people outside of his tribe or group, really. He had so much internalized hatred for himself that he would have a baby with someone whose culture and people he doesn't like. I've noticed the same thing about a lot of divestors. These women complain about isms, colorism, texturism, and featureism, but they want to go and have babies with the groups of men who created colorism, texturism, and featureism. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.